Hello everyone, and welcome to another roundtable discussion with us, the Platitos. I'm Carlo, and with me are my group mates Melanie
Hello, guys.
and Jillian.
Hello, everybody.
Okay, so let's dive in. So, The Truman Show is a 1998 American satirical science fiction directed by Peter Weir. The main character of the movie, Truman Burbank, played by Jim Carrey, was unknowingly living his entire life as the star of a 24-hour reality TV show, being broadcasted live to the world. Truman's surroundings, people he considered his family, and his friends, have all been fabricated for the show. He was made to believe that everything around him was real and that he had full control over everything he does. But in reality, all his actions and behaviors were a product of a show's director. But slowly, he begins to suspect that the reality of his world and sets out on a journey to uncover the truth. In this episode, we'll understand the moral and ethical problems surrounding the movie and analyze the characters and their moral standing using different ethical theories. Additionally, we will also be asking some ethical questions that piqued our interests as viewers. This show has some of the most interesting characters in film history, especially due to its concept. Okay, so after watching the film, there was this one character that, for me personally, really piqued my interest because of his moral standing and his role in the movie. The character that really interested me was the director, Christoph.
Oh, the director.
He perplexed me because if we see his actions through the lens of consequentialism, he's actually morally right.
Really?
So, before I start explaining how the director can be morally right, let me make a quick run through on what consequentialism is. Consequentialism is a framework for recognizing and analyzing moral dilemmas. This framework states that the rightness and wrongness of an action depends solely on its consequences. The director was the mastermind behind The Truman Show. He was the puppet master, and Truman was the star of his little play. The Truman Show was considered the longest running show in the movie, and the director was the deciding factor in everything and had the most influence on what happened and what will happen in the show. He is considered morally right, surprisingly, since the aggregate happiness of the audience greatly outweighs that of Truman's own. Using the act hedonistic utilitarianism complex form, wherein happiness of the greater number of people, also known as the aggregate happiness, is counted as morally right.
I see.
Much more people are happy watching The Truman Show than the raw autonomous happiness of Truman himself. Thus, even if we see how distraught Truman is about his situation, that very situation is where thousands, even millions, of people draw entertainment from. In a non-hedonistic utilitarian point of view, wherein the aggregate welfare or the benefit of all is what counts as morally right. More people benefit from the show, the crew, the production, and the cast. See how by seeing the movie in a different perspective, the quote-unquote villain becomes the righteous one. So, how about you guys? What do you think about the movie?
Gosh, your explanation about the director really changed my perspective of him. Well, movies like this are not my cup of tea, but I surprisingly enjoyed The Truman Show on its levels of comedy and drama. As for the character that piqued my interest, well, it's none other than Truman Burbank's on-set wife, Meryl
Oh,
Burbank.
right, Meryl.
She played an important role as Truman's wife on the TV show. She was also one of the characters who created suspicion that led to the eventual discovery that Truman had been living a lie all his life. I think Meryl is a victim too. Although she knew everything was fake, pretending for a long time is harder than we think, especially when the male lead does not have a script to follow. For instance, there was a scene wherein she was supposed to have a baby with Truman. Why would she want to have a baby with someone she didn't love, right?
Right.
Sadly, viewing Meryl's situation from a deontological perspective, she is morally wrong. Why? Because in deontology, an action is considered morally right not because of its consequences, but because of some characteristic of the act itself. Simply, we focus on the action, not the aftermath. This ethical theory is most closely associated with Immanuel Kant's categorical imperative. Thus, watching Meryl throughout the movie, her actions are opposed to Kant's three different formulations. The universal law states that if you do an action, then everyone else should be able to do it. Imagine everyone lying every day. Would you want to live in a world like that? Of course not. So, when Mary lied countless times to Truman during the show, even though Truman begged for the truth, she never revealed it. Why? Because she needed her job. Meryl needed the money. So she used Truman, or she simply treated the person as means to an end. This formulation states that rational human beings should be treated as an end in themselves and not as a means to something else. As I said, Meryl being the one closest to him, she was able to manipulate Truman's actions and decisions for the sake of following the director's script. Meryl walked on a tightrope throughout the movie. She followed the script and every order, even though some scenes were against her will. Her actions opposed the idea of Kant's last formulation, autonomy, to take ownership of your actions.
Mm-hmm.
Meryl simply following the script makes her immoral in the idea of autonomy. Really, paying attention to characters like the director or Meryl could easily change your perspective about what's right or wrong. How about you, Melanie? What's your take on this?
Um, I think another interesting character we can analyze is Truman's true love, Lauren Garland, aka Sylvia.
My favorite.
She was one of the reasons Truman was able to unfold the truth about his situation. I think she is the epitome of a virtuous person that Aristotle was describing in his virtue ethics. For Aristotle, a virtuous person exhibits the following traits of good reasoning and character. They know what the right thing to do at the right time with the right person and in the right manner. You see, the thing about virtue ethics is that there's no set of rules to be followed to tell us if something is right or wrong. It is not interested in what makes an action morally right or wrong, but rather what makes a person good.
Mm-hmm.
Hence, we can say or we can consider Lauren a good person because she did the right thing, which is being honest with Truman in that situation. She was even courageous enough to call out to the director, the production crew, and even the audience who indulged themselves in watching Truman being oblivious to his reality. Some of you may be wondering why she's so determined to free Truman. Partly it's because she intellectually knows that what they are doing to Truman was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
She was also acting with regards to her feelings, her senses. She loves Truman so much that she can't bear to see him in this so-called ideal world that the director was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So, being able to protest for Truman's freedom is her way to obtain eudaimonia, or a deep sense of relief or happiness that Aristotle was talking about. That's why the only time you'll see her fulfilled was at the end when Truman finally escaped from his prison. Hence, we can say that Lauren is a virtuous person.
Those are some great character analysis, but I'm kind of curious about your opinions, guys. Was Truman's world actually ideal? I mean, if it's ideal, why did Truman choose to live?
Okay, I have an answer for this one. So for some, yes, it's ideal, but for others, it's actually not. And in this case, it's not that Truman wants to explore the outside world, but he was willing to be a part of the real world. That willingness is his virtue of courage to take on the world. And that virtue of courage can also be present in other people, while lacking in some, which is why those who lack the courage to face the real world choose to stay in an ideal one. In Truman's case, he was a prisoner in his own safe haven. So guys, what are your thoughts?
Just like what Carla just said, yes, in definition, Truman's world is considered ideal. It's perfect, it's heaven. He was the main character. But looking at another definition of the word ideal, it also means that it only exists in our imagination, desirable or perfect but likely to become a reality. Truman is an explorer. For him, being stuck in the world built by the director will not help him improve as a person because everything was built to accommodate his needs and he wasn't actually acting independently. Escaping the ideal world for him is his way of stepping out of his comfort zone and attaining his autonomy.
Oh, also, watching the movie, you'll notice that the events in Truman's ideal world was have a pattern and are on repeat. From the moment he goes out for work and greets his neighbors to the moment he goes home. Their love for him is also authentic. Everything really is fake. I would definitely not want to live in a world like that. Also, to what extent does the movie reveal about our society or human nature?
That's an interesting question, Jillian. I think the movie tells us more about the reality of the media and their role in our society. The audience were so engrossed in their television that they forgot to live their own life. Just like in reality, we are so addicted to social media and our phones, we crave entertainment, we are so dependent on it. Most of the things that we do, say, buy, and the things we know are mostly influenced by the media. Media is a big ocean of information. You never know which one to believe. It only shows us the things that we like. And I think that's a very dangerous thing.
To add on to that, a person's virtue will influence their willingness to face the real world or stay trapped in an ideal one. As I have said in the previous question, there are those who are willing to stay in an ideal world for in exchange for their freedom or autonomy. And there are those who choose to have their freedom and their autonomy in exchange for the comfort that the ideal world presents.
Well, for me, I think how a person abuses power and how power makes a person play God. Like the director, he had the power to control and manipulate the media's and audiences' opinion throughout the show. Oh, last question. How do you think does the truth affect our morality?
Hmm, for me, in my opinion, knowing the truth can lead to good decisions. It helps a person grow and mature. We can learn from our mistake by knowing the truth. Truth gives way to knowing ourselves fully and the people around us. And by knowing the nature of our surroundings and ourselves, then we will be able to make a rational decision and act according to what we know is morally right based on the information given to us.
I totally agree with you. After discovering the truth, Truman was given more options other than what he has been doing his entire life. He was given the freedom to decide for himself, knowing that there are more options ahead of him besides that which the director made for him. So, Jillian, do you have any more questions?
No, that's all. Thanks for satisfying my curiosity, you guys.
Well, that was really something. Lots of discussions can be made from this one movie alone. I can say that it was more than fun analyzing the characters and understanding their ethical standpoint based on the different frameworks of ethics that we can use. Not only did the interaction of these characters with each other and what they bring, but also the dilemma that they are presented in. All of these make for such a rich discussion, especially when the movie is used as a baseline for ethical queries and food for thought. Well, that's it for now. Thank you so much for listening to our podcast. This has been an amazing experience, and we'll be sure to be back for more. This has been your host, Carlo, and we are the Platitos.